How's it going, everybody? Welcome into Armchair Analysis. It is Wednesday, April 29th, 2026. Almost to the month of May, which means that we're almost 1 month away from preview season. For those of you who are new around here, preview season starts on June 1st, and it's 68 teams in 68 days. We're going to get previews for every single team that are in the P4, including Notre Dame, out for you guys to enjoy. We got a lot of content planned, a lot scheduled already, and we've already know who our first team is going to be. It's going to be the Syracuse Orange, starting again June 1st. Make sure you don't miss that here on the Armchair Analysis YouTube channel. And I might as well go ahead and throw it in here now. Starting 2 days from now, Friday, May 1st, the Armchair Analysis Spotify is going live. Now, the first upload will be Monday, May 4th. Why is that? Why that? Because I just figured I'd rather start it on a Monday. So Monday, May 4th is the first official upload to the Armchair Analysis Spotify channel. But the channel will be created on Friday. So make sure that when that goes live on Friday, you guys make sure you go check it out. It'll be up at midnight Eastern time. Very excited to move over to Spotify. I feel like a lot of my content works well on Spotify. I've been told that a lot of my content will do well on Spotify. So looking forward to it. Hopefully we can make that happen. I appreciate y'all. And the best way you can help me out, going over there, following, and then leaving us a rating. It doesn't matter if it's 5 stars. I would appreciate 5 stars, but I know that I can still improve. So if you put anything less, that's fine. Just a follow and a rating would be perfect. Again, that's Friday, May 1st. Now, with all that said, let's get into today's video. It's going to be a very short one. Much like yesterday, where we talked about the college football playoff and the expansion, I'm going to talk a little bit about something different today. It's still another opinionated piece, something based on things that you see and read across the landscape of college football. But I figured, who are the most loved teams in college football? And then I thought, who are the most hated teams in college football? And that's not to say that these teams are not also loved, because they are. As a matter of fact, when you're at the top, you're both loved and hated. But who are the most hated? Who is the most hated team in college football right now? I'm very intrigued to hear what you guys have to say about this. Again, this is going to be a short video, probably 10 minutes. But let's go ahead and kick it off with number 5. The Alabama Crimson Tide. Look, I'm going to tell you what I feel about this team, and it's that the success has bred hatred. And again, any team that's at the top for so long is going to gain their haters. That's going to happen. That's how it works, right? But Alabama has seemed like kind of the most hated team in college football for the last decade. And as the Nick Saban era ended and the Kalen DeBoer era began, that hatred kind of tapered off, especially with a 9-4 season started off for Kalen DeBoer. Felt like that was kind of the way that things were going to go. They come back, they make the playoffs last year, they lose to Indiana in said playoffs. It's going to be really interesting to see where things go from here, how things carry on. And hey, be nice. Anyways, going to be really interesting to see how things carry forward, but I just don't think they're the most hated team in college football anymore. They're not the best team in college football currently. Now, that's not to say they can't be. They are just currently, as of April 29th, 2026, not the best team in college football. And they just signed a head coach to a long extension, which I feel very confident means they're comfortable with the situation they have in front of them. They will be back atop the mountain of college football here soon. Alabama at number 5, not the most hated team, but still one of the most hated in college football. Let's take a shift to number 4, Notre Dame. Look, when you have a school that is as loved as the Catholic school of Notre Dame, for rightful reasons, there's a lot of fans that are just simply fans because they're Catholic. No hate to that whatsoever. But there are a lot of Southern fans that are haters of Notre Dame for reasons, and for rightful reasons. I am a hater of Notre Dame. As you see that helmet right there, I've never liked Notre Dame. However, that's different when you're no longer just a fan of one team and you are a college football fan and a coverage guy. So don't misunderstand me. I have Notre Dame actually really high in my preseason rankings, or my way too early rankings, as I should say. But what Notre Dame is a school that has both a lot of love and a lot of hate around it. If you're a USC fan, you hate Notre Dame. If you're a Georgia fan, you hate Notre Dame because of the 80s. If you're a Michigan fan, you hate Notre Dame because of the rivalry. If you're a Michigan State fan, you hate Notre Dame because of the rivalry. If you're an Ohio State fan, you hate Notre Dame because they wish they were you. Like, all of these things can be true. Notre Dame is one of the most loved universities in college football for very obvious reasons, but again, they are one of the most hated because of all the rivalries they have. Catholics versus convicts, that is a rivalry that has stood the test of time, and even these two teams not playing each other for so long, leading up to Notre Dame kind of joining the ACC in like a pseudo member rule. Yeah, Notre Dame is one of the most hated schools in college football, and I don't want to say it's rightful, but we definitely understand why. At number 3, this team probably 2 years ago would have been the new most hated team in college football because the dynasty was starting to build. However, other storylines, other things have come around, and Georgia is no longer the number 1 team. Now, Georgia is hated, and that's why they're number 3. But they're not the most hated team in college football, and I think part of that comes from the fact that they just haven't won lately. They haven't been the most successful team in college football over the last 3 years. However, they are still one of the best teams in college football over the last 3 years. Continuous SEC champions, continually putting themselves in position to go win national championships. And while the playoff success hasn't been there, all the other success has. They've won all the majority of their regular season games. I think they've only had, 2 or 3 losses in the last couple of years. Again, they won the SEC championship 2 years ago. I believe they won it again last year, if I'm remembering everything correctly. Georgia is still up there as a very hated program, rightfully at number 3. Now, before we get to number 2, let's talk about some honorable mentions real quick. Honorable mention number 1, Texas. Look, you don't become as hated as you are without some reason to be hated. Obviously, Oklahoma's got a pretty big fan base. Hated. Texas Tech, Texas don't like each other. A&M, Texas don't like each other. But their joining to the SEC has certainly not been well received either by SEC fans. Texas has become one of the more hated programs because, one, they're successful again. That obviously breeds the haters. Secondly, it goes back to that 2018 Sugar Bowl when Sam Ehlinger did the whole "we're back" thing. It feels like that landed more haters because of what followed and the lack of success that happened for almost 5-6 years before they really got back in the conversation. The Texas is back, folks, after beating what would go on to be a 3-9 Notre Dame team. Also didn't help things. Texas is an honorable mention because I don't think they're there yet because they're not successful enough to be hated this much yet. But they're getting there. Honorable mention number 2, rising team, Indiana. They're going to be hated because they're going to be that good. They're going to go from nothing to something like that, which they already have, and it's going to become very, very disliked. Indiana is going to be on this list at some point. They're not there yet. My number 3 honorable mention, this will be the last one we talk about for honorable mentions, USC. A program that is as storied as they come in terms of college football success, going from the 1950s all the way to today. They have been one of the more successful programs in college football. However, the last 15 years have really not been kind to the USC Trojans. The post Pete Carroll era has not been kind to USC. They are finding a little bit of success with Lincoln Riley, and I think that they're actually bound for maybe their best year yet this year with Lincoln Riley. But prior to Lincoln Riley's arrival, this program was almost nothing. I mean, had nothing to show for itself over the 2010 decade, was a nobody. This program, as storied as it is, as loved as it is when they're successful, the question mark has always been, how are you in LA and not successful? How are you in LA, especially in the NIL era, and not a top-notch program? A lot of people hate USC because of where they are, who they are, and the history that surrounds them. USC was on this list. If they were more successful, they'd certainly have made the list. Going on to number 2. Number 2 is Ohio State. You can probably guess who number 1 is going to be. Ohio State at number 2 for multiple reasons. One, they're successful. One of the most successful, if not the most successful, Power 4 program since 2000. They have now 3 national championships to their name, 1 in each decade. They have been a perennial 10-plus game winner, minus the 2011 season that nobody really counts or talks about any further. When Luke Fickell had to be the interim head coach and they lost everybody and had to kind of build back from the ground up. This Ohio State program has been nothing if not consistent, and again, one of the best, if not the best, Power 4 program in college football for 20 years, now 26 years running. It's not going to change. Nothing's going to look any different in probably 10 years from now. Ohio State's got enough money rolling in that the NIL game is going to continue to be successful. And when you have a team that prolongs success through different head coaches, different eras, it's going to be hated. It's going to be perennially hated. It's going to be one of the most hated programs in college football. And they would be number one if it weren't for the last 6 years of the Michigan Wolverines. Michigan's the number one hated program in college football, and I'm saying this as a fan, knowing that somebody's going to say, well, you just think they're the most hated because you're a fan. Let me dig into this a little bit. Let's start with number one. The winningest program in college football. Yeah, I know I'm going to start with a homer take. That's fine. The winningest program in college football history. Nobody has more. And I don't care if the majority of them came before 1900. Everybody else played before 1900 too. And after 1900, still played, high schools and things of that nature. After 1900, everybody had the same opportunities. Michigan took advantage of them from the very beginning. 2023 national champions. It's their first of the 2000s. However, it came with controversy, and it's been following them since the COVID year. We go back to the COVID year, 2-4. Not only were they 2-4, Burgergate happened. A lot of people are gonna forget about that one. Burgergate happened with Jim Harbaugh, where he bought recruits hamburgers in an impermissible time for recruiting stuff. Essentially, I don't know how to explain that rule any better. Essentially, recruiting dead period. Bought burgers for recruits. Boom, you get investigated, and rightfully so. You broke a rule. It is what it is. That part was what it was. It was going to just be quick under the rug and move on. And then the Connor Stallions scandal happens. And whether or not any of this was true or not true, I lean more towards the fact that it did happen, but it didn't happen in the way that it was being made out to be made. And the reason I say that is, again, not because I'm a homer, but what happened after the Connor Stallions thing was discovered, nothing changed. Nothing got any different for Michigan. They went on and rolled everybody else that they played en route to a national championship. How do you really say that wasn't a legit title? I get it. I understand why people will say that, and I'm not discrediting that point. I'm just simply throwing things out there, right? You go beyond the Connor Stallions thing. Jim Harbaugh then leaves because he doesn't want to deal with the sanctions or impending discipline that could go his way. The majority of the staff leave. The majority of the 2023 team leaves. 2024 comes around. Sherrone Moore is named the head coach. Okay, moving forward. Sherrone Moore scandal that just proceeded 3-4 months ago now and has just kind of concluded with his sentencing of 18 months of probation. It feels as though the drama surrounding the program and now this newfound reputation following the Jim Harbaugh area has preceded the university. And while Michigan is one of the most globally recognized brands in college sports, along with Ohio State and along with Notre Dame, while it's one of the most globally recognized brands in college sports, it is still going to be kind of having the sword hanging over its head until things are proven different. The start of that has already happened with Kyle Whittingham being the new head coach, and I think that's brought a lot of cooling on the Michigan program. But it's not exactly perfect. Things are not completely out of the woods yet. I think that there's still a lot of room for things to continue to get better. Obviously, you got to prove that the culture is different. You got to prove that this is a different program. And there's still room to do that. Obviously, the majority or the entire staff now is completely different. Minus, I think, Kerry Coombs is the only one that's not different right now. but the staff is completely different. The player personnel, none of them had anything to do with the sign stealing scandal, and really none of them had anything to do with Sherman Moore, other than the ones that defended a coach that took for them when they were coming out of high school. I get the reason for doing that. Maybe not agree with it, but I get the reason for it. This program is one of the most hated in college football, and honestly, it's all brought on themselves. It's rightful hatred. It's not like, oh well, they just win, but and they they're hated because they win. It's rightful. Everything that's happened over the last 6 years has created a reputation that deserves the hatred. It deserves it without question. So to say they're the most hated program in college football, it's not me saying Michigan against everybody like Ohio State does. It's me sitting here saying, yeah, this team has had a lot of flaws over the last 6 years. We all should understand that. And now we see if it moves forward. And a lot of people are going to hate on Michigan until we see a true difference. That's the story along the Michigan Wolverines and the program that's currently being built under Kyle Whittingham. That's why they fall in as my most hated program in 2026. I thank y'all for tuning in. I know this is actually a longer video than I thought it would be, but I know this is a shorter video. I know this wasn't quite the content that I want to put out. I feel like this was a lazier type of video, but I thought it was kind of interesting because everybody has differing opinions, and a lot of those differing opinions come from where you are around the country, right? I grew up in the state of Ohio. I understand the Michigan-Ohio State rivalry, and I understand the hatred that follows both of those programs for the success they have had in their entire history. I understand the success of Notre Dame and the hatred that's had for Notre Dame around college football, because there wouldn't be so many rivalries with Notre Dame or so many teams that want to beat Notre Dame if it weren't for that. As for Alabama, we grew up, the majority of you watching this, grew up in an era where Alabama dominated the landscape of college football. That automatically breeds to be one of the most hated teams in college football. And then Georgia, some of you are going to be young enough to have grown up in an era where Georgia was dominating the first few years that you were really watching college football as a fan. I know that's how it was for me with Alabama. I've watched every Michigan game since 2006. I've watched college football every week since 2008, with a little bit of 07 mixed in there too. But every week religiously since 2008, I've been watching college football leading up to this year. 19 years of college football as a fan. Not as a diehard anything because I was 8 years old, but as of watching college football. I think I understand why Alabama's hated. I think I understand the growth that Georgia's had to become one of the most hated. So, with that said, expect there to be a most loved college football programs video coming out probably tomorrow. That'll be maybe my last video before Friday. Friday, I don't know exactly what we're going to do. Probably a little bit of a recruiting look in. I wanted to do that midweek. However, with everything going on this week, specifically me working, for those who don't know, every other week I work Wednesday, Thursday, and those days are my longest days that I work of any of the pay period that I have. So, with that said, I got to get shorter, easier content out a little bit on those days if it's not a pre-recorded team preview. So with that said, tomorrow is probably going to be these two types of videos. Friday will be a little bit of a recruiting look in, some other news around the college football landscape. We'll see if we get any more on Brennan Sorsby. And then from there, we carry on because, again, remember, we are going to Spotify May 1st. Make sure you tune in or check that out when it comes up. And then again, we're leading up to preview season. It starts on June 1st. 68 teams, 68 days, all previews, in-depth as it'll get around the college football landscape, that's for sure. So I appreciate y'all tuning in. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And with that said, we'll see you tomorrow. The top 5 most loved college football teams.